Hi everyone, and welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. Today I'm going to bring you the Bruce Willis cover from July of 1998, where on the cover it says Armageddon, how the government is planning your destruction. So if you're walking by a newsstand and you see a George magazine and you just happen to glance at it, you don't even need to buy it to see how the government is planning your destruction. Makes you think. Which I think is the whole point. I've read parts of this magazine in past episodes, but today I wanted to bring you a separate article, and this one is about false alarms, instances where the media maybe wasn't 100% correct and caused a false alarm, but that type of thing doesn't happen anymore. The title of this article is called False Alarms, and it starts with, "Be afraid, be very afraid," shrieked the media when these so-called crises erupted, and we were. But some of these scariest scenarios just didn't pan out. The first one is about killer bees. The fear of killer bees dates back to the 1950s. This year, the insects made it to Nevada, their farthest point north. They originated in Africa. Although killer bees are 10 times more likely to attack than common honeybees, they attack humans only when disturbed, as one elderly Texas man found out in 1993. The rancher poked a burning stick into a hive, and after suffering multiple stings, he had an allergic reaction and died. His death is one of the few in the U.S. indisputably attributed to the insects. The next is Militia Mania. After the tragic bombing in 1995 of Oklahoma City's Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, convicted bomber Timothy McVeigh's rumored association with the Michigan militia fanned fears of organized domestic terrorism. In the bombing's aftermath, anti-government extremists trumpeted a militia movement. Journalists counted more than 400 right-wing militias with 15,000 to 40,000 members in at least 40 states. Although McVeigh may have inspired some dangerous loners to attempt terrorist acts, militias and militia-inspired groups have proved far less pervasive than originally feared. For example, the Montana Freemen engaged in an 81-day standoff against FBI agents in 1996, but the threat ended without violence when 16 members surrendered. In 1997, 6 members of the Republic of Texas had a standoff with state authorities. The militia claimed to have thousands of supporters, but they never showed up. The next one is flu fears. Last year's Hong Kong bird flu, transmitted by air from birds to people, reminded virus hunters of the great 1918 flu epidemic, which killed more than 20 million people worldwide, including at least 500,000 Americans. Fearing the worst, Hong Kong authorities slaughtered more than 1 million chickens to contain the outbreak. Although health officials say we should be on the watch for the next bird flu next winter, the 1997 Hong Kong strain, while tragic, was limited. 6 people died, but only 18 others were infected. The next one is the Japanese buyout. When Jay Leno quipped about Japan on The Tonight Show in 1989, what the hell do they put on the Home Shopping Network over there, a map of the United States? He was alluding to the fears of many Americans. During the 1980s, Japanese companies snapped up more than $75 billion of U.S. real estate, including New York City's Rockefeller Center. Then the bubble burst. In the early 1990s, a recession hit Japan. Mitsubishi unloaded Rockefeller Center in 1985. Today, Japanese investors are liquidating their U.S. real estate holdings at the rate of up to $10 billion a year. The last one is the goat sucker. The internet and Spanish-language media are abuzz with news of an alleged livestock predator, a 5-foot-tall, winged, fanged, nocturnal creature dubbed Chupacabras, Spanish for goat sucker, who drinks the blood of cattle, sheep, rabbits, and chickens. The killer has become a cultural phenomenon, inspiring websites and an episode of The X-Files. Sightings of the creature in Latin America, Texas, Florida, and Southern California are more frequent than sightings of the Loch Ness Monster, but diehard believers have yet to capture chupacabras. Okay, I had to look up what a chupacabra was. I had no clue, and so if you're curious like I was, here you go.
Backwoods of South Texas, you never know what might be lurking around the corner or in your tree.
And he saw this strange animal sitting up here eating corn.
In Ratcliffe, a small town in DeWitt County, residents are certain they found the mythical, despicable chupacabra. And this time, it's alive. Jackie Stock says her husband caught the creature Sunday night.
He called me to come and look, and I said, Bubba, that looks like a baby Chupacabra.
With its hairless back, large claws, countless teeth, and ferocious growl, many would say this animal fits the bill.
You know, I hunted coons, 20 years with dogs and all that, and I ain't never seen nothing look like that right there.
Parma says one of the big signs it's not a raccoon is its growl.
Coon don't make that noise, or a possum. What makes that noise? I guess Chupacabra.
Luckily, where I live, there are no chupacabras. At least I don't think there are. I thought this article was really interesting because it shows the power of the media and how fear is control. I think we've all seen and now understand how powerful and effective the media is at creating fear, even when the story might not warrant it. As the old saying goes, people who are fearful are easier to control, but I think Americans are catching on to that phrase and they're getting smarter. But if anybody sees a chupacabra, please send me a picture. That does it for this episode of the George Collection. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
Magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.